waiting for the to-go orders, and then brunette Sarah was a waitress. The restaurant opened at 11, but customers wouldn't come until after 12, so they only put 2 servers on between 11 and 12. So this day I worked at 11, and when I got in there, it was brunette Sarah and then another server. And for whatever reason, everybody and their mother decided to go to the restaurant that morning, which as a hostess isn't good because I'm not supposed to be overwhelming the servers by like sitting them with a million people at a time, you know? So since this is one of my first shifts, I didn't know what to do, so I asked the manager, should I keep on sitting Sarah? Because the entire other person's section is full. And the manager was like, yes, you're gonna have to just keep sitting her. And I was like, well, she's gonna get really overwhelmed, are you sure? And then he was like, yeah, what else are we gonna do? And I was like, okay, I guess. So I filled Sarah's entire section. She looked so angry at me. And listen, I hated working there because all of the waiters and waitresses would get mad at me if their section was full. Like, it's not my fault. So as a hostess, I was also a busser. So I had to bring plates to the back. And the to-go order people were in the back. So when I go back there, I see brunette Sarah is with blonde Sarah. I would try to smile at them, but then they would just give me nasty looks. So they were standing by the exit. I walk past them to get out, and they go, "What?"
I burned down the house. Story time. When I was a little kid, I used to love making potions. Not real ones, of course. I would just mix random things together, like my mom's perfumes or hair products, or just random stuff I found around the house. And yes, I would get in trouble every single time, but I still did it anyway. Normally when I made potions, they would be harmless. You know, no one would ever get hurt. Until this one day where I took it a little bit too far. So I decided I was going to make a love potion. It was for this person I had a crush on, but that's besides the point. But at the time, in my head, you had to mix everything pink in your house together, write your crush's name on a piece of paper, set it on fire, and then drop it into the potion. Well, that sounds easy enough, but the problem was, I made the potion flammable. I put all my mom's pink perfumes in it, and then on top of that, I put in a whole bottle of pink nail polish remover, which is extremely flammable. But as I was dropping the lit piece of paper with my crush's name into the potion, it caught fire. I tried to put it out, but I dropped it, and then the whole house caught fire.
There was this boy in my kindergarten class. We'll name him Stan. Stan was the kid who would pick his nose, eat weird lunches, and was the class clown, but like nobody laughed at anything he said, cause all his jokes were like poopy jokes. I don't know why I remember this. It's pretty random, but it's just one of those memories that have stuck with me throughout all these years. So this girl, we'll name her Bella. She was always trying to get everyone in trouble. She would tattletale on everyone. And I didn't have the typical kindergarten teacher. The one that's like, okay kids, we're gonna pass the ball around and say what we loved about our summer. And then we're gonna eat these cupcakes that I brought. No. My kindergarten teacher was like, why are you talking during nap time? Why are you packing our books at 2:59, we end at 3? So long story short, I was terrified of her. So anyway, the teacher told us to open our notebooks. Logan opened his to the middle of the book and not like the next clean page. And the teacher yelled at him. So I said to Bella, Logan's so stupid. Bella was like, ooh. Then she tattled on me.
Me, my husband, and our 15-year-old daughter, Georgia, went to my sister's place for lunch this past weekend. Georgia is very bright. She completed her exams early and is now studying more advanced material. She's a big fashionista, a lot more than I was at that age. She loves pretty clothes and outfits, and we're happy to get her as much as we can, provided she behaves well and keeps up the good grades. The lunch with my sister was fairly casual, but Georgia wore her new pink dress. My sister isn't as well off as we are, unfortunately, and she is raising 3 children on her own, and her job isn't a high-paying one. In the past, she asked me if Georgia could tone down her outfits when we come to visit because she doesn't want her kids being upset because they can't afford things like that. I do get my sister's point, but it's not down to me to police what Georgia wears. I've spoken to Georgia about it, but I left the final decision to her. Anyway, so we went for lunch, and Georgia ended up getting into an argument when my sister's 13-year-old daughter Lucy asked about the dress and where it was from. Georgia answered that it didn't matter because Lucy couldn't afford it anyway. We told Georgia to shut up as soon as the comment left her lips, but it soon ended up with Georgia and Lucy screaming at each other. My sister made the kids vanilla milkshakes, and Lucy decided to throw hers all over Georgia, ruining the dress. Georgia burst into tears, and to be fair, my sister did bring her a change of clothes. I said that if the dress was permanently ruined, I wanted my sister to reimburse us. My sister has refused and said that it was our responsibility because my daughter wore an expensive dress despite being warned not to. The dress cost a couple of $100, and washing it has failed to completely remove the stains. Frankly, I don't care about my sister's warnings. We can't make Georgia wear what she doesn't want to, and it's not our problem that she can't control her child and stop her from ruining a beautiful dress.
for his own gravesite.
Not only did he include a window on his tombstone, he also built a contraption that included a bell. In the case that Timothy woke up underneath the ground, he could pull a string and ring the bell to signal for help. Timothy passed away on Halloween in 1893, and he never needed to use the bell. The window to his grave is still there, although the visibility to see inside of it is very low after the years. But I can't imagine being a gravekeeper, hearing a bell ringing in the middle of the night, knowing that you are the only one there.
This is why you should never go on a subway again. So what happened is that one night, a teenage girl was taking the subway home from work back to her house in New York. Scary part is when she went on board, she sat directly across from two men with a woman sitting in the middle. The creepy part is that the woman kept staring at her and wouldn't even blink, while the two men never once looked at her. Well, at the next stop, a man with a trench coat walked in, but the girl didn't pay much attention to him. The girl kept trying to look away so that one lady wouldn't stare at her, but she just kept looking, wouldn't even blink. Well, at the next stop, that random man with the trench coat pulled out the teenage girl and dragged her out of the subway. She was screaming, asking for help, because she had no idea why this guy just pulled her out. But the guy told her to calm down and said he actually saved her life because the woman that was staring at her was actually dead, and the two men next to her were holding her up to make her look alive. The random guy with the trench coat said if he didn't pull her out, she was going to be their next victim.
This is why you should never ask too many questions. Once there was an old lady who was widowed and wheelchair bound, living in a house with 2 floors with her caretaker. One day, the police received a call from this old lady's house. The caretaker had been murdered. One detective was sent to investigate, where he found the caretaker's body on the first floor, vocal cords ripped out, lying in a pool of blood. The old lady was ruled out as a suspect because she was immobile, but the detective did know that this crime seemed familiar to how the widowed husband died years ago. He had suffocated in his sleep on the couch downstairs when the old lady was upstairs. After getting evidence from the first floor crime scene, the detective asked to look upstairs as well. The old lady refused at first, but he insisted and went up anyways. Everything seemed pretty normal until a shocking revelation came over him, and it sent chills down his spine. It was a detail that investigators had overlooked in the murder of the widow's husband as well. There was no phone on the second floor. The detective then suddenly heard a noise, withdrew his weapon, and ran out of the room, only to find an empty wheelchair.
These TikTokers accidentally found a body. There's a popular app right now on TikTok called Randonautica that sends you to random locations in your area. Some people find random abandoned places. Some people even found random weird things in the forest. These group of teens were led to a suitcase. But the thing is, when they opened the suitcase, it was a dead body inside. When they opened the suitcase with a stick, it had a horrible stench. Later calling the cops, who confirmed there was dead body parts inside.
This is why you should never talk to strangers in an elevator. One day, a surgeon was working the night shift at a hospital. He just finished his operation on a patient and was going to the basement. He entered the elevator, and there was one other woman already inside. They were casually chatting when the elevator door opened and another woman was about to enter. But the surgeon looked horrified. He quickly slammed the close button and punched the highest floor of the building. Surprised, the woman asked why he was being so rude and wouldn't let the other woman in the elevator with them. The surgeon explained that in this hospital, all patients wear white wristbands with their names printed on them, but the red wristbands are placed on all of the corpses. The surgeon then looks to the woman in the elevator with him and says, "That was the same woman I just operated on. She died on the operating table. Didn't you see the red wristband she was wearing?"
This is why you should always lock your front doors. A kid living with both of his parents decided to watch a movie for their family weekly movie night. He then gets up to use the restroom. As he is in the restroom, he sees all of the power in the house cuts off, and then he hears 2 loud thumps. He locks the bathroom door and hears heavy objects being dragged across the hallway. The kid, freaking out, runs out of the bathroom and runs into the restroom. Once he is inside the room, he locks the door. As he locks the door, he jumps in bed and acts like he's asleep in hopes that this person who is in the house will ignore a child sleeping. He closes his eyes and hears the door creak at the same time. He squints his eyes and sees a man with no eyes dragging the bodies of both of his parents. The man dragging his parents sits his mom's dead body in a chair facing him, and then sets the dad's body on the floor facing up. It was almost like whoever was in the house who killed him wanted him to see it. He then sees the man writing something on the wall and then climbs under his bed. He laid there for hours knowing that if he moved a muscle he would end up just like his parents. He finally built up enough courage to read the wall, and the writing on the wall said, "I know you're awake." This is why you should never play hide and seek. A mom decided to play hide and seek with her 2 kids. The mom began counting, ready or not, here I come. She begins searching the downstairs kitchen because she knows that they hide there every single time. As she's walking to the kitchen, she starts saying, I wonder where they are. She looks under the table and sees they aren't there, which is kind of odd. She knew they were too scared to go into the basement alone, but she decided to check anyway. They weren't there either. She began to panic. The mom then says, Jordan, Casey, come out now, mommy's not playing anymore. There was no answer. Panic really begins to set in. She decides to call 911 and reaches an operator. She tells the operator what's wrong, and the operator sends an officer to her house. Once the officer arrives,